It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, welcome to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Hey, my friends, this is a show you're going to enjoy. These are kind of shows that you just sit back, listen to what's going on, and you're going to be very pleased of what you hear today. Very good friend of mine, Father Connell McHugh. Everyone in town knows him. He's a great priest. He wrote a book, Kaleidoscope of the Heart, okay, and it's interesting poems. And I find them interesting. I didn't read every one of them, but every one of them has a story. And it's like my wife and I had the pleasure of being in the Sistine Chapel. And before you go into Sistine Chapel, you see all these tapestries and you see these pictures, etc. If you have a guide with you, which we did, you look at this beautiful tapestry and you see this picture of maybe Jesus or the Blessed Mother, angels or whatever, and it's a good picture, but then the guide says, now you see why the arm is this and why he's pointing here and why there's a dog here, and all of a sudden that tapestry comes alive. You know, it's wow, you know, it's just beautiful. And then, of course, forget the Sistine Chapel, it's unbelievable. Well, when you're reading poems and different things that Father wrote here, we talk about them, you start thinking about those things, and I like these are life experiences. Well, Father, thanks for coming on the Sam Lesante Show.
Very happy to be here.
Okay, it's nice to see you, feeling good, looking good, and as
Feeling pretty
always,
good.
I see in church, you bounce all these churches, right?
I'm around on your studio mass all the time too. It's like probably the longest tenured person
That's right.
Many years.
That's right.
Many years.
Boy, we started that back with Father Mano, I think, many years ago.
Yeah,
you know, and then Father Angelo and all the, even our bishop was on the, had
Bishop Ambert,
it's amazing. I'm sure you know how many people watch that Mass of Inspiration.
So many people tell me every week that they watch, they saw me on the Mass.
Yeah, well, that's good. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, people who know you, you're a pastor for a Good Shepherd, right? And for many years. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I started my schooling to study for the priesthood at St. Charles Seminary in Catonsville, Maryland, right outside of Baltimore. I was there for 2 years. And then I went to our own diocesan seminary for 3 years in Dalton. And then 3 years in Our Lady of Angels Seminary right outside of Albany. And that really helped me a lot. There's outstanding teachers there, and it inspired a lot of interest in theology. I had really, especially in the field of Scripture, I had top-of-the-line professors. They were visiting scholars. Just about everybody in the faculty of the Scripture people had books published, and that really encouraged me a lot. I liked that. And then I was ordained in '72, and I spent the first couple years in Scranton, then came back to my home area of St. Francis, West Hazelton. I was there for almost 10 years, and I taught all the years at Bishop Hayfield. I usually had 3 sections. So I had a big background in the area. Then I was made pastor for almost 10 years at St. Patrick's in Whitehaven, and I wasn't able to teach a little too far. I taught the first year I was there to finish the year out, but that was it. And then back to St. Francis again. I was pastor from '94 to 2007, and then I spent a year or so at Holy Redeemer. Then I was made pastor of Good Shepherd. The last 8.5 years, my pastor there was there.
Why did you want to become a priest?
I think I really got in the habit of enjoying Mass when I was very young. I used to go almost every day to Mass when I was even in grade school, and I admired the priests in the parish. I think that had a lot to do with it. And then my mother and father were devoted Catholics. My mother went to Mass every day, and my dad, when he retired, he went to Mass almost every day too. So that inspired me to, I think, a lot. And I was in the Catholic environment. I went to St. Gabriel's School for 12 years, which I enjoyed, being there. But it was a nice atmosphere growing up there.
You were really involved with Scripture.
Yes, that's my main interest.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you have the Scripture classes. Okay?
Yes.
In fact, one's currently going on. My wife and I really, at one point in time, we said if we could only find the time, because you want to go through the whole system, find it interesting, on the interpretations of Scripture. And I think that's what you talk about, right?
Yes. I try to give like all the different points of view. I read an awful lot, and I started that in my early 20s. When I went to Our Lady of Angels in Albany, the one that inspired me from Hazleton was our own Father Robert Barone.
Oh, yes.
He did an awful lot, and he was a good personal friend of mine, and he really started me with my interest in Scripture. I had him for first theology up at St. Pius X Seminary, but he was outstanding. I don't think our diocese had much in Scripture at all until he came, and then he really inspired that, and then he inspired the colleges too, like Scranton and King's and Marywood, etc.
It's just fascinating when you hear the different things. I remember Father Barone. There's always the different stories about the Ascension, when it happened, and different things in life. But anyway, the book here, Kaleidoscope of the Heart. I didn't know you were a poet. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
You didn't know you were a poet.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write all these poems?
I guess just desire to express my feelings. That's one of the main things. Some of it is search for meaning. Another thing would be to put down some of my thoughts, religious thoughts, on paper. I think that was another thing. And then just observations of people. That would be people that I became interested in. Just sometimes even strangers. I just observing people that I thought were interesting, and scenes that are interesting, and memories of my younger days. I have a lot about that, and I think of my parents growing up in this area. A lot of things that interest me, and then some of the poems on Christ I have, of course, would be inspired by the Scripture studies and that.
You cover it all in this book.
Cover a lot, yeah.
How'd you get the title, Kaleidoscope of the Heart?
I just thought that all the different poems kind of reflected the feelings that are going on inside of me, like my own heart, how I felt on many different topics they go in different directions, and a lot of different things. And I first mentioned that to the group that helped me put together, and they liked the title, and they thought it was really good. One of them got the design, and actually two of the local people designed that. The Kostaneski sisters, they designed that. So
beautiful.
They did a good job on it.
When I start reading some of these, and they're interesting, but as we're going to discuss some of these, how you talked about life experiences, all right?
Yes.
All right, so at my age now, I look at different things differently than I looked at it when I was 20, 30, 40, or 50. So throughout this book, do you share those different experiences throughout your life as to what you did in the 20s and 30s, and then how you maybe, not matured, but, different kinds of...
Different viewpoints. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What was your very first experience? And what poem here was your very first experience?
Some of the earlier ones, I had a book out actually in 1972. I had a book that was much shorter than this, and the poems weren't as good, but I took a couple from there that, I liked. Some of the things, I guess, in sports were early memories. I have a couple in there. Billiard Boy. I have Black Tape Ball, remembering playing baseball. And
the very first one, you said, so you took some from your book.
So I took some from the book I wrote in '72. When I was first ordained, I published a book, and they were written during my years mostly in the seminary, that at Pope Pius X in Dalton, and then at Our Lady of Angels in Albany. I had reflections on some of the people, some of the situations, and all that, yeah.
What would you like the readers to get from, your poems, okay? I mean...
Well, I'd like to give them, I think, appreciation of the good things in life. And another thing, some of the poems definitely are about Christ. I would hope that I would inspire them on that. And dealing with difficult situations, I do have some poems in there that deal with times of sorrow and trying to get through them. I think, to try to help them, when they have difficult times, to try to help them through them. I think that would be another goal that I'd like. And then some for enjoyment, like some of the sports poems I have. A lot of them are about the times I sponsored teams, basketball teams. There we go back to the 70s, a lot of times when it was Bishop Hayfie there, and Scranton before that. They used to have a lot of tournaments after the end of the basketball season where if for a price you could enroll in a tournament and play exhibitions and all. But the students really enjoyed that. I got coaches like that would be willing to do that. I'm not a basketball coach. I could coach tennis, but I can't coach basketball. But I enjoyed that a lot with the students, and they really look forward to that all the time. I did that for a lot of years. Some of the people that you'd know that were coaches for Joe Clark, you'd probably know him pretty good, and Nick Caputo was one of the ones that they were the ones from the area. The girls. Sometimes it was Adrian Mangler, to go back to Bishop Hayfie quite a while.
What different types or times in your life were you inspired or to write poems?
I would think the most creative period that I had was when I was up in Albany. I was in an excellent academic environment. That's when Senior McGowan started sending candidates to the priesthood as seminarians up to Our Lady of Angels in Albany, and they had visiting scholars and all. They had ecumenical people come in, and then there's some interesting teachers, even poetry. I had some of that, literature, but that was the most creative period that I had was in Albany. And I had a priest in there that I dedicated a poem to, Father Peter Young. I don't know. I hope he becomes a saint, because I couldn't see anybody who did any more to help the poor than that. But I had a lot of contact with him up there, and he inspired me a lot. There's a poem about good men never die that I dedicated to Father Peter Young. He was pastor in the ghetto area of Albany, South Albany, for many years. And he worked for the poor, for alcoholism, to help people, drug addiction. He'd be available 24 hours a day. I don't know how he did it. He died at the age of 90.
God bless him.
Back in 2020. But he was a big source.
I like the way you broke the book down in terms of childhood. So when you're talking reflections on reflection, I'm talking about the book, my friends, and then you have the different poems that you wrote about, then Christology, okay, and then cities.
Cities, yeah. Visit the cities you lived in, about remembrances about them, and how some were written actually when I was living in those cities. Yeah.
Your family.
Family.
Yeah. Folk, rock and roll, rhythm and blues.
I have a lot of interest in music. I like the music of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I wrote about some of the singers that I knew, and also some of the situations, like we had the protests going on, and the folk music and all that, and rhythm and blues and all that. Yeah, I think I have about 10 poems on either figures in music or people who were involved in doing it.
Yeah. You talked about the Platters here. Sam Cooke, one of my favorites. Okay.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites.
Reflections and observations. Different poems there, my friends. Relationships, extremely interesting. I read a number of those. Search for meaning. Seasons. Spiritual. Sports. He knows a little bit about sports. The 60s. I'm talking to Father Connell McHugh, folks. Most of you in Hazleton know him, see him from Massive Inspiration. Kaleidoscope of the Heart. Now, how do we get this book? Perfect gift. Perfect gift. Up here at the Laurel Mall, where they give the gift certificates, the games and skills, right next to Play Zone. They have the books on display. You can get your book there. It'd be a great gift. But we come back, I'm going to talk about some of these poems and what they mean and how interesting they are. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Remember, 24/7, ssptv.com. All of our shows are there. My guest today, Father Connell McHugh. no stranger to anyone in the greater Hazleton area. And he wrote a book, a poem, Kaleidoscope of the Heart. It's very interesting. If you just tuned in, you know, this show is seen many times. Just go to our website or YouTube. And Father, when you were putting these poems together, you asked me with some of the ones I read, okay? But I want to ask you this. When you wrote, there's so many different poems in here, folks, but they all have a meaning. And that's what I like about it, okay? Black tape ball, okay? Okay, that's black tape ball.
That would be, you know, a lot of times when we were younger, say like junior high or so, sometimes we didn't have a new ball to play with, and we taped up a ball, a black tape ball, to try to get through the afternoon. We had, you know, it was saving money, I guess, we didn't have a new ball at times, and we used those black tape balls all the time, and eventually they'd unravel. But I talk about that, about how we were playing with one, and then somebody hits a home run and it disappears forever.
Because it unravels.
It's an experience that, what you call it like that, Jimmy Grohl from Jimmy's, that was the poem he liked the best. He had that same experience.
And you enjoyed a good hot dog as well.
Yeah, I do that.
Now, there's another one. Every one of these poems, they have a story. We were talking about this before we started the show. The stairway or the elevator. Give me that.
That story was when I was in Albany. I was a seminarian. And they used to call it the Apostolic Works Program. I don't know what they call it today. But we used to have something we do for the year. And one of my things to do was to visit a poor family in, well, they used to call it the ghetto area. It was a high rise of 12 floors. And when you go into the place, you could see all around the entrance outside broken glass and all that, wine bottles.
Oh, boy.
You thought about going to get up to see the person like in the upper floors. I think the person, one of the ones I visited was the 12th floor. And I'm thinking, what's the better way to go, the elevator or the stairway? A lot of times the stairways didn't have any globes. And the elevator, sometimes you're kind of stood at the back of the elevator. There's a danger of mugging in that time. So it was which one to choose. That reminded me. I thought about that. The stairway or the
and to put it
elevator.
together in a poem like you did was absolutely fabulous. I don't want to read it to you, folks, but just I'm going to read this one though. Okay, and you know we talk about life and how it is. One of the poems in here is love again, life again. To see a face you thought forever faded. To listen to a voice you believed you would never hear again. To touch a hand you felt you would never feel again. To find a friend again, love again, life again. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. It's a short one, but I think it gets a lot across.
Yeah, it certainly does, you know, and as we get older in life, you know, you start looking at different things, as you very well know, Father. And you start, you know, you try to look for good things in life, you know, because there's so many negative things that happen in our lives. And I always say I like to surround myself by people who are positive, okay? And I know you can't be positive all the time, but you know, if you're with a naysayer, you know, you get up in the morning, you feel good, and then it's a beautiful sunny day, and someone says, "Yeah, but it's going to rain tomorrow," you know, and it
pulls you down. Yeah,
it puts you down. You find the same thing, you know, in life, you know, surrounding yourself with people.
Yeah, people who are optimistic and positive certainly adds a lot to you, and people, on the other hand, as you say, who are down themselves, they pull you down too as well.
The thing I find interesting about the book, and you mentioned this, is that there's different things for different people in here, okay, whether it's relationships, etc. Jen at the Sign of Peace.
Yeah. Well, you know her, I guess, from the Gunderson unit. She was I can remember, I guess she first started on the job. She was there when my mother was going through her final sickness before death, and I can just remember her being at, you know, in the Gunderson unit there at the desk, and then later on, when I became pastor, Good Shepherd, she was a member of Good Shepherd Church, and I can remember we had a big smile and
Yes.
the sign of peace, and I can remember that smile from the Gunderson maybe 20 years previously. So that's how I got that inspiration.
And I don't want to, it's a beautiful story here, my friends, okay, in terms of that. Did you write most of these in the morning, afternoon, night, or what was your...
I would say I wrote them mostly, Sam, later in the evening, certainly after supper, and a lot of times into the morning. Maybe I might go to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was basically late, especially the ones I wrote in Albany, like when there'd be like a Friday evening or something like that, and things are finished down. I'd stay up, late and write them. Most of them were written late at night. That's not too many during the daytime. I rarely wrote a poem like in the morning or anything like that. Most of them late, and I'd stay up a couple hours to finish it, and then you felt exhausted when you get finished with a whole poem.
When you were writing these poems, did you at any point in time feel extremely emotional?
Yes, oh, definitely. I had emotion for these poems. Yes, a lot of strong feelings. Yes, I'd have to say that definitely.
And they come across. They come across. When you start writing, etc. Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. The poem Tomorrow.
That's thought about what's the good and bad of tomorrow. That's sort of the fence.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's a credible book, my friends. It's called The Kaleidoscope of the Heart. It's a perfect read, and it's a perfect gift for anyone. And you can get it here at the Laurel Mall, up at the where they have the gift certificates, the games of skill, right next to the play zone. They're on display up here. I wish I could have you with me when I'm reading all of these, because you give me the interpretation.
I tried to write some of them. I have some interpretations down. Try to focus, like Greenridge Summer. That's about the area, Marywood, and all that, and just recalling things like that. And I had one, Shouts 73. That used to be a popular baseball stadium in Dunmore. Different places that I can have good memories of. I did that.
The seasons. You bring in Valentine's Day. You bring in the different sights and sound of a summer night on a beautiful day. Just a lot of inspiring poems. But the one here on the rock and roll one with Sam Cooke, a tribute to a soul singer. How were you able to put these in all these different categories, which I think is fabulous?
I had a lot of help with people who worked on the project. I had altogether about 10 or 12, and about 4 to 6 all the time with me. We categorized. That was the whole thing. We had whole sheets, and we categorized them by the different, what we thought the theme was, and that's how we organized that. But I had a lot of help with doing it. I'm grateful to all the people. Judy Whitaker instituted the project. At my 50th anniversary, she saw the book I had. This was one of the mementos. They wanted the committee to have a memento, and she saw that book about. They had only a 45-page poem. I had New Visions, it was called, and from that she wanted a copy of all the poems and pulled them together, and then got a committee together, and they went over them, and we had hundreds of poems, and the book actually has 145, but I have many, many more that didn't make it into it. Some of them wanted some others to be in there, but we didn't.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Father, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting book. Kaleidoscope of the Heart, my friends. Different life experiences. When you feel down or whatever, you just want to inspire yourself. You read some of these. It's extremely interesting. It's far from boring. You can get the book up here at the Laurel Mall. Just go to the gift center here where they have the gift certificates, and games of skill right next to the play zone. Well, Father, thanks for coming on the show.
I'm very happy to be here. Okay, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we'll see you in church as always.
Definitely,
okay, love your homilies.
Okay.
I wish you the best of health too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Folks, remember, Kaleidoscope of the Heart, get the book. Perfect gift for somebody, and it's so inspiring. We'll see you next time.